and I hope that you all have had a fantastic first week of classes. It's a little bit chilly out. We don't know exactly what winter storm Fern has in store. And I have to say that carefully because I'm a Floridian and I'm used to saying tropical storm, but no, Fern is not a tropical storm. Fern is a winter storm. And I was able to tell people, I was able to talk to people about like this storm has a name now. So now we're calling the storm by its name, Fern. Okay, to get into other things that are actually more fun than winter storm, Fern, not that weather prep isn't fun. I'd like to hear a few good things that happened that you're excited about in your first week of classes.
So, in my anthropology of food class this week, we do a lot of small group discussions and class discussions. And I was really jazzed because I had a hard time getting the students to stop discussing in the course. Like, they're already just like so active, engaged, like excited about the material, already like thinking really hard and coming up with cool thoughts and like already getting to know each other really well. So that made me feel really excited and really happy to already see them so excited and engaged.
Uh, so my star student told me that her paper was accepted to the North Central Sociological Association conference, and well, mine too, but it's an old news. And we are going to Pittsburgh together. So for her, it's going to be a huge experience. Yeah, awesome. Well, another thing is like I got an article published in a journal of trauma aggression, and this was 2 weeks ago, but I just need a chance to brag about it.
Excellent. Congratulations. Anyone else? One good thing that happened in class this week. Yeah? Headed your way. We could also toss a catch box. I won't toss the handheld.
That's fine. Yeah, regarding my AEM 499 class, that is a senior capstone design class. And I just discussed the thought process, what will be there on Tuesday. Then on Thursday, students bring their excellent ideas. I was surprised that I thought that it will take a month to decide what to do in this particular semester because this is a one semester task only. And some of them are doing internship, some come with the brilliant idea, like there is a wheelchair, something they want to put some additional stuff. So I was amazed and surprised. Within 2 days, that I never expected that, and that surprised me. Yeah, that's a good to know that. Yeah.
We have one on Zoom as well.
Okay. Chris, can you read the Zoom comment?
Looks like Chris said, I have started mentoring an undergraduate research project this semester, and our first meeting, which occurred this week, went very well.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. All right. Well, hopefully you can continue to build on that momentum over the coming weeks. I want to make sure that we get to our great content for today, but I wanted to acknowledge something kind of unique about this experience in that we have our first year faculty here along with members of our faculty scholars community, which Dr. Hunter has been coordinating and doing an incredible job with, and we hope to build as well. So we want to take these moments to bring people together, to bring faculty together, to convene. I know that it is rare that you have the time to come together, to share a bite to eat, but we're so appreciative of our new faculty cohort, welcoming back for an exciting spring semester, and also our faculty scholars community as well. We're going to be focusing on establishing and maintaining a scholarly agenda. Dr. Blair is going to lead us off in a presentation to help set us up for that conversation. Before we get into the content, though, I wanted to acknowledge a few people here who I hope will also share their insights and contribute to the discussion today. Dr. Hunter, of course, who many of you have heard from if you are in the faculty scholars community and engaging in that activity. Dean Tom Martin, an incredible colleague, somebody that I absolutely just love brainstorming with all of the time. Dean Martin and I helped to launch the Writers Retreat along with, it was a collaborative effort, but really, it originated from a conversation that we had, and I'm so appreciative of the continued collaboration. We'll be talking about that. But we have also done a lot of work in thinking about the paper sprint, which some of you have heard a little bit about, and we can share some resources on. That is a focused approach to your scholarship and research. So again, hopefully Dean Martin will contribute to the conversations today as well. And we also have a faculty research fellow with us, Dr. Jason Fry, who's helped us to initiate a lot of the programming focused on our scholarly initiatives and our research initiatives, and hopefully he'll chime in as well. So with that, we want to invite our panelists to the stage, and I'm so pleased to have Dr. Blair here to share an update and some information and a presentation, and it might have been too early. Maybe I introduced the panelists too early.
No, you can jump
And he'll introduce us to some scholarly strategies, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rusty. So it's great seeing you all here today, and it's great seeing so many of our faculty engaged and ready to set some goals, but then also exceed those goals, pursue excellence that we talk about at Eastern, right, or Eastern excellence, not only in just our teaching, but also our research and our service at the university. So by show of hands, how many of you feel like you're really good at time management and you figured out how to get that teaching, research, and service all together? Oh, we've got one that's really good. Well, I actually shouldn't even have my hand up because I still feel like I struggle with that from time to time. So this is what I wanted to do, was to start off. We've got our outstanding panelists here, but we're going to start off with an activity, and I want to get some like hands-on, hopefully experience for you to kind of be able to see some different situations and scenarios. Think about how you would handle those, but also maximize those opportunities so that you're able to reach your particular goals that you have for your academic career, but then also that very important promotion and tenure process. So you're able to score as many points as possible, and you're not left on the sidelines because you didn't hit those goals or marks for each of those 3 different areas. Sound good for everybody? And maybe a few of you feel like this person trying to juggle everything with like life, teaching, right? Everything else that's going on, and how am I able to get all this done in a timely manner? So if you all think about it, right, we've only got 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That may seem like a lot, but it's like, how do I maximize my output during that time? It's really important for you all, especially early on in your careers, figuring out what are you getting graded on? What do you actually get points for? So I'd highly recommend, if you haven't done this already, sit with your chair, sit with a senior faculty member, go through your P&T policy and figure out what criteria you need to be set up for success. And so that it's just a smooth transition when that P&T committee is looking through your documentation. Check, check, check. While this person's way above and beyond, we need to have them here for the long term. They represent what we think is that Eastern excellence. So what I want to focus on today is how can you get some of those 2-for-1s or 3-for-1s? And some of you may not be familiar with this. You may be saying, what's a 2-for-1? What's a 3-for-1? We have our 3 different pillars with teaching, research, and service. A lot of times we may be able to combine some of those activities where we're still getting that same productivity, but still have our teaching blend with our research, or maybe have a service opportunity that we're also able to collect data and get research on. So what we're going to be doing, and I've got a couple of my helpful colleagues from the College of Business, Stephen and Cassie, they're going to pass out some blank sheets of paper now to everyone in the room. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some real life scenarios that I've actually been granted during my time, my early years at EKU, and I want you to jot down how you would handle these opportunities if they were presented to you. And these are all within my first few years at the university. Now, my areas of marketing and business, so when you see examples like this journal editor is from Journal of Consumer Marketing, or they're talking about the marketing area, just sub that out for your discipline, whether it's English or biology or engineering or whatever it might be. Just plug that in and figure out, how would I be able to take advantage of this opportunity, and how am I able to score points for my tenure system, right? And we're going to have our panelists and myself a little bit later on walk around the room, and then we'll be able to provide you all some feedback or start facilitating some discussion within your small groups. So with this sheet of paper, right, you've got these real life scenarios. This is what you want to be thinking about when you get these scenarios. Are you able to complete the task? Does it count towards your P&T scorecard? How can you turn this into a potential 2-for-1 or 3-for-1 where we're mixing the teaching, research, and service together? Are you even able to complete this task? Do you need to bring somebody else in with another skill set to help you get that accomplished? And then how would you respond to the person that's giving you this request, right? So we're going to go through about a dozen different scenarios, right? It's going to be kind of like rapid fire. So as we're going through these, I want you to just start jotting down your thoughts. How would you tackle this one? Who do I need to partner with? Is this something that I could handle on my plate at this time? How can I maximize or leverage these opportunities? Are you all ready? Everybody's got their papers? All right, and again, these are real life scenarios. So I've been faced with some of these. So here's Marcy. Marcy was my chair of the faculty as I was going through the P&T process. Jim, you've been doing some outstanding work during your time at Eastern for P&T. Make sure you have continuous contributions in your teaching, research, and service. Ideally, you want to get a Category 1 rating across all areas. Getting an A-level publication in your research would be a great part of your packet and a strong research indicator. If your chair is telling you we want to be continuously doing well in teaching, research, and service, how do you get that A-level pub? How do you make that happen? So go ahead and start jotting down. What are some of the steps that you would be working towards to get what's considered A-level in your field? One of the better journals. We've also got A-star, right? So we don't have to go towards A-star, but if you're going towards an A-level pub, what would you be doing? What are some of the steps that you would be working towards? Is that something you could handle? Is it something you could fit in your packet? What does that look like? All right, so as you all are working on that one, some of you may have gotten some initial notes down. Let's move to our next one. Next, Patty Norberg, editor for Journal of Consumer Marketing. This is considered one of our A-level journals. Jim, thank you for all the work you've been doing reviewing for JCM. Getting those reviews in early and providing helpful feedback to the authors has been really valuable. We're proud to have you being on this A-level publication. I appreciate your service on the editorial review board. Will you serve as an associate editor for my journal? I've been impressed with your work and want to give you the opportunity to take on a larger role. So if a top-level journal asks you to be an associate editor, you have not gotten tenure yet. What do you do? How could you handle that with your workload? Now you've got to find reviewers. You've got to go through those articles, provide good quality feedback. It's not one of our middling B or C tier journals. This is one of our top ones. Can you fit that in? What does that look like? Do you need to build up your skill sets? So go ahead and start jotting down, what would you do for this scenario? How would you make this happen? Let's move on to our next one. Jim, Delancey and I are working on writing a sports marketing textbook for a new publisher, Stu Kent. We need someone to write the marketing research chapter. Are you willing to be a contributor and write that one? I know you've done some good work in this space and will continue to write some strong material for the book. So you've got someone that reaches out that you know. They're writing a textbook. They're looking for you to be a contributing author for one of those chapters. What do you do? How do you respond? How do you fit that into your bandwidth for your time teaching, working on other research projects, service opportunities that come along? So you think about your response to Jerry, and then Jerry writes back to you shortly after, wow, that chapter was really good. Delancey and I talked. What do you think about writing a few more chapters for us and joining as the third author on the textbook, right? You haven't gotten P&T yet, but you've got an opportunity to be on a textbook. This is a large undertaking, and you will help us out a lot with the textbook and the materials that go along with it. How do you follow up now that you've done a really good job, potentially if you said yes on the first part, and now they're asking for more from you? Is this something that you could take advantage of? Is this something that can really help with your P&T packet? Is this something you have the bandwidth for? Do you feel like you could collaborate with these other people on the textbook? How are your work styles? How do you all do with goals and deadlines if you've worked with them in the past? Have you had issues with co-authors in the past? How could you prevent some of those issues? Always good. You could always ask for resources or help. I like this in the back. That's a good point. All right, next, let's move to our next scenario. Jim, we appreciate you and your students competing in our online direct effect marketing madness competition. Have you thought about bringing a group of students to one of our in-person competitions? The next one is in Washington, D.C., and we'll be working with the Arthur Ashe Legacy. If you're not familiar with Arthur Ashe, he was a tennis player and has a philanthropic organization. You can switch this to something in your field instead of sports. How do you respond to Carl asking if you want to do an in-person trip after you've done some type of virtual competition? Is that something you could fit in this semester? Because the semester's already started. Is this something that could be a valuable learning opportunity for the students? Do you have the bandwidth? What does your calendar look like? How involved are you with your students currently? Does this get you points towards your tenure and promotion? Carl's a really nice guy. He does some good work for the U.S. Postal Service. All right, so we've got our student competition one. Let's move to our next scenario. Jim, I have a few other commitments. I'm not able to be the advisor for our FBLA chapter. It was difficult keeping students engaged during COVID, but we still have a few that are regularly engaged and connected with the group. You've done some great work with these student competitions during your classes. Will you take over as advisor for this student organization? So you've been doing this good work in your classes, getting students connected to the community. Are you able to now lead one of these student organizations? Does this count towards your P&T? What do these points look like for you? Is this something you could manage with your workload? How do you handle interacting with students? Are you able to lead this group? What's your familiarity with student organizations? When do they normally meet? What does that time commitment look like? And again, it doesn't have to be FBLA. It may be like science club or math club or book club, right? Any of those things. On to the next scenario. Whaling says, Jim, we need you to work on getting some of our numbers up for the marketing program. Will you help us with recruitment to get word out about our different concentrations, minors, certificates? The university is really looking at enrollment numbers right now for resource allocation, and we could really use some more resources in marketing. So you've got your area coordinator, or this may be your chair, that's asking you to help with some of the recruitment efforts. Letting other students know about the majors, minors. This may be attending things like the Major Expo Fair, right? Or collaborating with other faculty to get the word out. What does that look like? Are you able to help with this? How well do you communicate with students, interact with them? What are some of the opportunities to bring more students into your programs? Is this something that will count towards your P&T numbers? Remember, we want to be scoring points. All right, on to the next scenario. Coach Wells, we have some recruits coming in and their parents are visiting campus. Several of them are interested in pursuing business degrees. Are you available to talk with them, answer some of their questions, and give them a tour of the building? We appreciate all you've done for the football team in the past and work you do for our student athletes. How do you respond to Coach Wells' request, especially with all the NIL transfer portal and all the changes going on with college sports? So now we've got the football coach asking us to help with recruitment of the student athletes, but also, right, students that want your program. How do you respond to that? What does that look like on your schedule? When do recruits come in? How knowledgeable are you of your programs? Will this count towards your points for P&T? Looks like we've got a lot of notes written down. People are coming up with some good ideas or maybe trying to avoid some of these situations. All right, on to our next scenario. Oh, sorry, I was going to bring this up, right? If you give a mouse a cookie, what happens? Yes, and then what happens after they want milk, Cindy? He wants a straw, then he wants this and that, and then, right? So what ends up happening? Now we've got Coach Jane and Coach Matt reaching out to me. We have a big recruit coming in that's interested in business. Would you be able to talk to them about your programs for softball? Would you be able to talk about them for our golf team, right? So once they hear, oh, the other coaches are reaching out to you, would you be able to help with some of these visits? They want business or they want your area, right? Whether it's physics or math or English. Can you help us with these? Can you get some of these recruits in? It'll help with your enrollment numbers. What does that look like for your schedule? Does that count towards your P&T points? All right, next one. I don't know if Jill's online or not, but hi, Jill, if you're online. She's usually at these sessions. Jim, we have a program at Model. Students go through a senior research project. This gives them a strong foundation in the research process, sets them up for success in their transition to college. And I have a student that's interested in pursuing a marketing and advertising project. Would you be willing to serve as their advisor? We appreciate all that you do for the university. So again, if your area is biology, plug in biology in there. If it's English, plug in English. But now we've got the local high school reaching out, and they're interested in having you serve as a mentor and advisor for that student research project. What do you do? How do you handle that? Have you worked with high school students before? What would a research project look like for a high school level student versus you all who have gone through your doctoral programs and a much more rigorous experience at that level? Is this something that you have the bandwidth to do? What would this look like that doesn't have necessarily a class structure, but more of a mentoring, meeting relationship with the students from time to time? All right, Tom's up next. Jim, John, Rusty, and I have gotten to see students compete in the entrepreneurial pitch competition at another university. This was a great opportunity for them to develop their skills, get professional feedback, build their businesses, and grow our community. It was set up like the TV show. Ours is called Scholars Tank, but you've probably heard of Shark Tank. I know you're doing some great work with the students in your Marketing for Entrepreneurs class where they are pitching to clients. Do you think you could organize and support an initiative like this to help align with our college goals? So would you be willing to start one of these Shark Tank or Scholars Tank competitions because your work and your class really aligns well with this event? So your dean reaches out to you. They're looking to start a new competition within the college. It's related to a class that you're teaching. How would you set that up? How would you bring in competitors? Is this something that counts towards your P&T points? What does that look like? How are you able to pull that off?
The answer is yes.
Are you able to say no to Tom? All right, I think everybody's got this one down. And then our last one, Annie. Annie reached out to me. She's the executive director for the Southern Ohio Copperheads, and she works at Ohio University, where I graduated my bachelor's degree. Jim, I love seeing all the work you're doing with your sports marketing students. It's great having you an alum of the Southern Ohio Copperheads organization. We've seen you've been doing a lot of experiential learning opportunities for your students with the athletic department. What do you think about starting your own summer collegiate baseball team at Eastern Kentucky University? The Great Lakes League is looking to expand and could use another team. Let's talk soon. So what do you all think? Now they're asking you to start a business, but it could also be a great experiential learning lab for your students because the business aligns with the topics that you teach and discuss. What does that look like? Is that something manageable that you could do during your P&T process? Will you get points for doing this? Are there any 2-for-1s or 3-for-1s that you could get out of this, mixing teaching, research, and service together? Cassie and Steven, this is where I need your all's help. Can you all pass out the slides now? So what I'd like you to do is within your small groups, we've got our panelists around, I'll be around the room to walk, but you all started jotting down some notes as to a game plan as to how you would handle these situations, if they're worth points, how you'd fit them into your schedule. Start talking with the people within your group about a few of these scenarios. How would you handle them? Do you have the bandwidth? Are you able to get some of those points for your P&T process? So I've got the slides that way for like, I forgot that scenario, what does it look like? But talk in your small groups before we get into our larger group discussion. All right, now that everybody's been able to talk within their small groups about the different scenarios, let's share out some of these ideas. Were there any of these opportunities that you saw where you were like, this could align really well, and I think I could mix my teaching, research, and service together, and what would that look like for you and your discipline? How would you get some of those points? Did any of these look appetizing or ones that you would say yes to, or this is something that would really help with my P&T packet?
I think that like they're all interesting, but it's also the realisticness of what you can actually do while also teaching. And or we talked about, we are a group of social work people here.
Yes.
And a lot of this aligns with our ethics. And I think this is something we struggle with of like, we don't do things just for points.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about, well, how do I make this 3-for-1? I think that's an area that as a group we struggle with because we don't think about things like that.
Good, but I think your mindset of where you're at is you're actually at a higher level of we're just not trying to get points. You're probably more like a closer to self-actualization of like, what do I care about? Why am I here? How am I able to make a difference? The key thing is we still need to score our points that are here. But I think with these scenarios too, you can still do things that you're really passionate about, which is something that I wanted to get to later, but we're hitting that point earlier on. So thank you for sharing that. So what's one of the examples on there that you all felt really passionate about that you would be able to do? And could you still pick up points doing this? Because you want to reach your personal and career goals, but you also want to make sure that you're hitting all the boxes.
I'm student advisor for our Student Social Work Association, and that was appealing to me, and I was excited about that because I love working with students and helping them learn and grow and also develop. So that's an area that I felt really strongly about. And so that's something that I do.
And what do they do in that student organization? What are some of their activities?
A lot of, we do outreach to different organizations, not only on campus, but outside that, like homeless population, or we coordinate with the different months of, like this month is human trafficking month, awareness month. We do things around certain groups to help support them and do awareness activities.
Good. So with the student organization, you may be making an impact off campus, right? So not only are you hitting it maybe at the department level for service, but we're also hitting maybe more of our community level where we're able to give back. So now we're hitting two different parts of service. In addition to that, when we talk about like some of these enrollment number things, sometimes our classes and our student organizations go hand in hand. They generate student interest, they help with retention efforts, and they help with progression as well too. But also, you could be able to do some type of research project collecting data as to why do those students feel like they're a part of the community? Why do they donate and give this extra time to be able to help out others within the greater community? Why do they do this to build their skill sets? So even within that student organization, you may be even able to collect some data or turn that into a research project as well, which would get you some of those research points. What's another one that you all felt could be really good match with what you're trying to do, or you thought you could really get a really good 2-for-1 or 3-for-1? Yes, if you want to toss the box.
No.
Oh, hand it over.
No, you don't want
So actually the first one with manuscripts. So next week I'm attending a manuscript training with my journal at the field, in my field. And am going to volunteer to be a reviewer. So I'm listing the manuscript training under training on the cover sheet.
Yep.
Then the reviewer is a type of service, but that knowledge will hopefully get me where I can do a submission that's accepted because I know what they're looking for.
Yes, absolutely. And I'd highly encourage you all be active as a reviewer. It keeps you up to date with the literature. If you're more quant focused, you stay up to date with latest statistical techniques and practices. But being able to understand what's acceptable or not acceptable in that journal gets you that criteria. You understand the formatting, and it can actually promote, and I would even say boost your research productivity as a result. You want to have a reasonable amount of articles you're reviewing or assigning to people, right? We don't want to be overwhelmed with that, but that's something where we can turn that service into a strength for research as well. Good. I like that a lot. What's one more that we want to share that you thought was really good? Can we toss the box all the way over to Stephen?
Got it.
Or we got one over here? Go for it, Stephen.
I just wanted to go back to what Dr. Robles had asked you about in the first slide for that A publication. And I feel like being the associate editor sets you up the best out of all the other options to land that A publication, but you're also getting the service, as we just pointed out.
Yes, but now I am your chair, Stephen, and how are you going to get that A-level pub? Because you might be in that same situation. How are you going to do that?
By coming up with the best idea. To me, it was the hard part, but also, you know, the data collection and coming up with a good co-author, make sure we have a good match, someone that we have a good relationship with, and being able to write a good literature review, which, as you just pointed out, being an associate editor exposes you to the most up-to-date literature.
That helps out a lot, but then I know Travis is in the room too, and Stephen for like business, for tenure track. Do you need an A-level publication to get tenure and promotion?
What you mean by A, I guess, but
it's not in our P&T packet requirements, but as chair, because some people are like, wow, A-level pub, a few of the groups up here, Marcy pushed me to be the best person I could be. We have a bar or a benchmark with a P&T process, but to what this group was saying back here, you all need to set your own personal goals, right? And we don't want to just hit the bar or just barely get over the bar. You all want to pursue excellence and be seen as leaders in your field, pursue interesting research areas. And Stephen, to your point, how do I get my writing to be A-level quality? How do I get my statistical techniques to be A-level quality? Do I need to partner up with someone to help me with some of those things? Do I need to work on other research projects? But I felt like this was something where it wasn't like just scoring the points. It was how do I get to where I want to be with my research and my career. Now, did anybody see any activities where you're like, this is impossible, like I want to ignore this email forever? What did you do, or what was one of those that you all saw? Oh, the last one. Sorry, who else? Somebody over here was saying the last one too. Pass the box to someone. Why do you say the last one? Stephen, pass that over to him.
Yeah, because we are not familiar with the business or some are forming a team and all. If somebody have the little bit background related to that, then it will be good. Because we are more like a teacher or doing research or doing service, but this is a kind of something like coming out of the box. But if somebody is coach doing coaching and then more into the student groups and all, so it will be the good opportunity from them for them.
Good. And do we have a summer collegiate baseball team in Richmond? So you can see I did not do this one or fulfill this promise. There's sometimes you get requests like this, and personally, I love experiential learning. I enjoyed my time with the Copperheads. I thought it was very valuable, my learning experience. But I will say there's times where you need to say no. And with this one, this was not going to help with my P&T process. This was going to take way too long to start up. Does it fit within my scope or areas of interest? So you also need to be able to understand what is of value, what matches my like self-actualization and career goals, and then what do I have the time or the bandwidth to be able to do? So that was the idea. Is there's probably one or two or maybe several of them that we went through scenario-wise. You need to be able to say no, and here's why. Or if it's someone that you want to rely on or build currency with, I cannot do this, but please come back to me with another opportunity. Or this is how I could help you with this moving forward, but I've got all my bandwidth tied up and I want to make sure that I'm hitting my marks in my other areas. So that's really important for us to focus on. So what I want to do now is move into our panel discussion because they've done a really good job being active within their research. They're teaching their service. They've been leaders on our campus community, but they've also been able to juggle a lot of tasks. And one of those areas that they've done really well, which I think they've done well with their research productivity, is with the writers retreat, right? So I think that's been one really good opportunity for you all to be able to get some time devoted to that and hopefully find success. But just to start off with you three, how are you all able to juggle all these responsibilities, constantly getting ask after ask after ask after ask?
I'm not gonna lie, those emails gave me PTSD a little bit. Yeah, it was overwhelming, but I think the last four you showed hit home, like, you know, those involving recruitment, students, organizations. So I'm in the Spanish program, as you guys can see. I'm in the languages department. We rely a lot on service and student engagement. That's what we do. So I read up, you know, a bunch of those, and I realized, yeah, I probably would have said no to some of those, but whenever students were mentioned, I was like, yes. Now, my first 2 years, probably, it took me a minute to knowing what to say no to, because what Jim was saying about those 3-for-1, or, you know, for example, our student engagement sometimes does involve the teaching component, right? For example, we have the symposium, the skills symposium, which we have some of the committee members and the chairs here. That one involves the three things, basically. We do student engagement. We include in our classes activities where they will present some stuff at the symposium. So that is the teaching part. We have research because we're going to write a paper about that with the committee. And then we also have service, right? Because we do this just out of service and because we love our students and we do it for the university. We are part of the Scholar Showcase in April. So that was one that when I realized it had the three things, I just stuck to it, right? And I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I really enjoy it as well, so I'm passionate about it. But yes, it is a lot of work, right? And I had to be really organized with my time. Some days I didn't have it together, of course. But asking for help was really important. So one of those things is you're not alone in whatever idea you have. So last year we had a great committee, and we're still working with that committee this year. It's actually larger now, so we're so excited. But the first time, I think it was only 3 people that were working on this with me, and it was a lot. And that's when we decided to join forces with the sociology program and do one for the whole department. But I had to ask for help, but I didn't know how. So I think I always mention this in all of my panels, probably, but just talk to your colleagues, right? So, I mean, before you say no to all of these things, yes, ask yourself, can I handle this? And also, does this really help me in my P&T? But also just talk it out with your colleagues, right? Some of them might be like, actually, this will benefit you. They know more than you about the P&T guidelines. So if you're just like free doing it, like freelancing it just is going to be tough because then you're going to get feedback on your yearly evaluation. And this is real life scenario to me. They will tell you you need to follow the guidelines for the P&T. You're just like, you don't do just everything that you want to do. You also do things intentionally. So that is a very important word. Am I going to do this intentionally? Is this going to help me with my promotion and tenure? Is this going to help me help my program in my department? It's not just what you like or are passionate about. It's also about students most of the times. And so that's what I would say. Definitely having like boundaries, that's important. So you don't have to say yes to everything, even though that's like the culture, sadly, sometimes. Well, you're a junior faculty, you have to say yes to everything, but you don't have to really. But if you don't know what to say no to, just talk to your colleagues, your senior colleagues. Get a mentor outside of your department. That's also a good thing you could do, because then later you can collaborate with them. And so there was a collaborative event we also did, I think last year, that brought us to a paper that is now going to be published at the Pedagogical Proceedings. That one also hit the 3 for me. And I was really excited, because I was like, I finally found the trick. What am I supposed to be doing to hit those 3 areas? And yeah, it got really good feedback on my yearly evaluation. So that's what I would say. Just collaborate with people, not just in your department, but outside. So you guys, like, for example, our first year faculty, you probably made friends already. So just talk to your friends, in a coffee place, like, hey, what do you think about presenting together at Pedagogical this year? Or, participating in these school visits. So yeah, that's what I could say. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was tough. But, and it's tough saying no, like I still feel bad, I still deal with guilt, but that is personal, right? If you're a person that doesn't deal with this, just go for it. Just say no to things that they won't really help you. But study them, right? Study all of those emails and all of those ideas people propose you, and sit down and write them down, like Jim make you do. Like basically that's what you're gonna do. The same thing. This is amazing. Actually, thank you, Jim, for that. Like you just read the email, take some notes, and say, okay, I'm gonna say yes to this and no to this. So yeah.
I would say that if you're looking at an opportunity and you're not sure, again, if it's good or bad, or if it's going to count the way you think it's going to count, you're like, oh, I think I can count this in this category. I think this will count for that category. Get it in writing. Everything in writing. My first year, I was handed a book chapter by my chair my first year, and he said, this will count for P&T. So I was like, great, it's in my wheelhouse, it's their expertise, it felt like something I could manage, so I did the book chapter, and then the chair left, and a new chair decided book chapters aren't acceptable publications. And I went back and got it in writing that I was told this. And I fought it all the way up through P&T because that's what I had been told. So get things in writing. If there's any questions, any doubt, if you're like, I don't know if this journal is going to hit this many points or that many points, if you're on a tiered journal, get it in writing before you do the work. If you're sitting in an email like that, you can send it to your chair and say, can I count this in this category? How will this work? And I know our P&T policy for my department now includes a process where you can send it to the current P&T committee and get a P&T committee ruling that you can include in your dossier, in part because of my experience as an early career faculty. So, making sure that you have it in writing that these things are going to check the boxes that you think they're going to, and that you're allowed to kind of double dip in places, that your committees aren't going to be like, you can only count it here, you can't count it there as well. So kind of making sure you're finding out the culture of your own department, and asking these questions ahead of time. Don't just assume that it's going to count the way you think it will, but get it in writing that it will. And I don't think that was actually the question you asked, but that is the thing that came out of my thoughts on Sarah's. I'll talk more about strategies in a minute.
Well, I'll put our spin on the question as we remember it. I don't disagree with anything that was said. I would push back maybe just a little bit on the ability to say no to some of those, those examples that Jim came up with, because I don't know that we live in that world where we can turn down those opportunities, because those are all opportunities except for the last one, those. I want to start a baseball team. That's what I want to do. You'll have to teach me the rules first. So all of those are really, you got to view those as opportunities to build up your CV and to build up the kinds of categories for P&T. I don't know that we can say no to those things. When I was hired in 2020, my chair that hired me said, we're not going to ask you to be program coordinator. He stepped down, new chair came in, and she put out the email. I was talking to Angela about this earlier. Put out the email, okay, guys, who wants to be program coordinator? Silence. Then the second email came out to the whole department. Who wants to be program coordinator? Silence. So then I offered, I said, I was told I wouldn't be doing it, but if you need, I could learn it. And sure enough, I was then program coordinator for 3 years, I guess. And it was a horrendous year. But I'm so glad that I did it, because towards the credit for P&T, but also I learned all about Kentucky schools, the Kentucky state education system, as well as the university system, that I never would have learned to this day had I not been program coordinator. So, you know, those we find ways to make it work. I mean, that's just the reality, because life is messy. One concrete suggestion I'll have in terms of publications, I know you people in business don't like our journal, but
we like it, Ray. It's on the journal list now. We put it on there.
Oh, is it really?
It's on there.
Okay. The Journal of Excellence in College Teaching and Learning is out of the School of Education. As of January 1st, I took over the editorship of it. So I don't even know like our next deadline. We're into the revision process now. But that's one that, you know, the chances of getting published in that are really, really, really good, because we need articles. There may be revisions and you know, multiple drafts, but chances are really, really good. And so watch for that. It's a Journal of Excellence in College Teaching and Learning out of the School of Education. The only other thing too that I'll suggest is a real time saver. If you're more of a qualitative person and you want to do some type of an article, a study that's quantitative, our statistical consulting lab on campus is remarkable. And that's how I got my first publication. And I am not quantitative at all. But that's how I got my publication, and through the writers retreat too. That was the project that I focused on that.
And that's a great transition where Cindy's going to be talking about, I believe, some of the writing retreat and having that research productivity and being able to block out some of that time moving forward. So let's go ahead and transition to some of Cindy's slides. Do you want to go ahead and take it away?
Talk more general about workload management on the whole, not necessarily the writers retreat, but
yes.
If either of you two want to give a quick plug for writers retreat, we can do that before you move into my slides. Are you gonna do it? Are you? No, I mean, I can, but I have other things to talk about too.
The quick plug on the writers retreat, it's 3 days. It's 3 days concentrated. You're in isolation. And I've done it, like I said, twice, maybe a third time. I don't remember how many years it's been. But besides having the dedicated quiet time and being forced to sit down with you and your laptop without any other distractions, there's the other reality that we're in a resource deprived university, and this is an opportunity to get some additional funds for PD once your article is published or a conference presentation is made, I believe. So practically, you know, everything's good about it. Just do it.
No, it is within a year, right? If you publish within a year, maybe, or so it happens in May, so it's late May, and then yes, if you get to publish it within a year. I did it for the first time last summer, and it was great. Honestly, like I got a whole manuscript of something that I have been like just pushing, like pushing off, like, oh, I'll get to it next week. And you know how hard it is to write while we're teaching and doing committees and all that. So I really enjoyed it. If you have the opportunity to apply, I think it's open, right? Like the applications.
Using the QR code.
Yeah. Oh, that's right there. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah.
And just one other thing, if you do participate in that, this may be obvious. It was not obvious to me, but I kind of stumbled through it. The first year was when I was working on that quantitative article. It was very focused. I had a draft, but I knew that I wanted to end with that article being done in those 3 days. The other time that I accomplished it. The other time that I was participated, I knew I wanted to write a grant proposal. It was kind of airy-fairy, kind of loosely structured. And because I did not have specific goals and I wasn't real concrete about it, I really didn't end up with the product that I could have and should have had out of that experience. So just go in being very intentional about what your goals are for each day and for the overall workshop.
Yeah, have a clear goal in mind for those kind of 3 days of writing. I wrote a grant proposal there that I was like, well, even if I don't get the money from there, I can use the money from having submitted the grant proposal to kind of fund my student work in the lab. It'll cover it kind of, and I ended up getting the grant to then cover the student work. So it was great. And then this past year I did it and put in a conference proceedings paper. So been very, very helpful here. So do you have a question?
What happens if you get published within a year of?
Rusty, do we have a current number, or Tom, do you have a current number? Is it
$500.
$500 for PD? Yeah, once you can show proof of it having been submitted.
Email
accepted.
from the publisher saying, congratulations, your paper's been accepted, or whatever, then we route
Yep.
$500 to your professional development.
Yep, so it doesn't completely cover a conference, but it's a good start. Every little bit helps, right? And then you also have finished your publication, so. Okay, so I want to branch into some workload management. So we talked about there's lots of opportunities. You got to know how to strategize, how to say no, how to balance the time that you have. And I'll be honest, my first 3 or 4 years, I drowned. I worked 60 hours a week and I was miserable, and I was thinking this is an unsustainable career field. And I was looking around at other faculty going, how do they have a life? Because I don't. I must be doing this wrong. And I think for a lot of us, especially if we come with passion and things that we like to do and ways that we like to engage with our students and our workload, we can very easily get drawn into what ends up is ultimately a numbers game, and we're on the losing side. So I want to do a little bit of math. We're not going to do a ton of math. I have more math if you want to see more math, but you don't have to see it. Okay, so I took a hard step back a couple years ago and I said, what does EKU say my job is? Okay, if I take all the way step back, what does EKU say my job is? My job is 12 credit hours teaching that constitutes 80% of my workload. The remaining 20% of my workload is scholarly creative activities and service. That is my workload according to the university as a full-time faculty. Now, if you have release time for a leadership position, if you have another kind of clinical assignment or kind of a variation on a standard 12 credit hour teaching load, your numbers are going to vary in percentages here, but I'm just going with the general, this is what the workload policy states, okay? What that means is that, if it's 12 credit hours, I'm teaching 4 3 credit hour classes. I'm just going to use the assumption if you're teaching labs, this all goes, then the numbers get wonky, and that's my own personal problem, and another soapbox for another day. But so we're just going to start with saying, okay, let me break it down. What does it look like to teach one class? Okay, that's going to be 20% of my workload. So 1 day a week of hours. If I'm working 40 hours a week, we can all debate that number later, how realistic that is, yada, yada, we get breaks, whatever. It's a very realistic number. I've done that math, okay? 40 hours a week is a very realistic work-life balance for your 9-month contract. So you have 8 hours a week for 1 3 credit hour class. Everyone follow the math so far? Okay. What does that look like? For 40 hours a week, okay? Or for a 40-hour week, we get 8 hours for our class. We're at 480 minutes for this class. Okay, we're gonna assume synchronous lecture, okay? Starting next fall, everyone's synchronous lectures are 2 days a week, 80 minutes apiece. That's 160 minutes of lecture time, period, every week, okay? But we know that we don't just like walk in and start lecturing at the minute the class starts and walk out the minute we're done. There's some pre and post. It takes some time to get there. If you have to walk across campus to your class, that's going to add some time. You want to be 10 minutes early to chat with your students. You stay 15 minutes late having questions answered, okay? I have averaged 10 to 15 minutes per period for pre/post engagement. That's about 5 minutes on either side, 5 to 10-ish, 30 minutes a week. That's pretty reasonable. Add more time if you've got other extenuating circumstances like the student that just won't leave, okay? We're down to 290 minutes left. We have to prepare for class. That's part of the workload that the policy says. And I am just kind of blanket saying, for every minute in class, I'm gonna spend a minute preparing for class, designing assessments. Maybe I'm tweaking something. Maybe I have to figure out how to do a setting in Canvas that I haven't done yet, and that's gonna take a few minutes. Maybe I just need to reread my slides. Oh, I read that new article that I wanna incorporate. Let me quick make those adjustments. 160 minutes more, okay? This assumes you've taught the class before. If it is a new prep, triple this number. You are well over your time. Don't do anything else for this class. Just know you're not working 40 hours this week or any week this semester, okay? That is the life of a new faculty. It sucks, but it's reality, okay? Because you can't prep 160 minutes of lecture in 160 minutes when you have a blank set of slides. If you've got stuff from your textbook publisher, if you've got slides from someone that's previously taught it, maybe you can make that happen. Like some people can, some people are really quick at that. I personally am not, and my classes have never had good textbook resources. So just know if you're teaching a new prep, this number is going to shoot you in the foot, okay? And it's going to be why you're wondering why you can't work a 40-hour week, okay? But let's assume you've taught this class before and we're getting a little better. We're just making some minor adjustments, nothing major overhauls, okay? We're down to 130 minutes left. We've got student emails, we've got active office hours where students are popping in, about 60 minutes there. And so that leaves us with 70 minutes for the last aspect of evaluating student work. And here's the other place that my time just runs amok, okay? Because 70 minutes is not very long for grading. If you have 15 students in your class, which is the minimum enrollment for a class to run according to EKU without an exemption, you have 4.7 minutes per student per week for grading, to read whatever they've written, whatever they've done, give quality feedback. If you have 20 students, you're down to 3.5 minutes per student. 35, you're at 2 minutes per student. If you have 70 students, you get 1 minute per student per week to fit in what EKU has said our workload is. You might not have a 70 student class. Congrats, that's fantastic. If you have a 70 student class, you have to think hard about where you're going to spend those minutes, okay? So I don't want anyone to panic thinking, oh my gosh, I now know why I'm going to spend the rest of the semester going crazy because the math isn't going to math in the classes and I've already published my syllabus and I already have assignments planned and it's not going to work. So I don't want anyone panicking here. What can we do? Okay. Some strategies that come down to the grading aspect, because again, this is my time sink and something that I've thought a lot about. How can we leverage some fast or auto grading assignments? Where are the opportunities that I don't have to read what they've written, that Canvas can let them pick a multiple choice question? They still get points, they still are practicing. Maybe I've had to do a little more prep on the front end to write these questions, but it's going to auto grade my 70 students and I'm going to save minutes every week because they're just going to use my practice questions, okay? Or maybe I can use a Scantron. You know, I always find writing multiple choice questions is really hard for me. It's more front end, but the back end grading, I save time there. Where can I make these trade-offs that are going to help me out? Where can I incorporate an in-class assignment that can be graded as a class, i.e. we like swap papers and I can kind of go over the answers and then they kind of score it and be like, oh, if they said this part right, give them a point. If they said that part right, give them another point. And then we've kind of already covered it, given feedback and graded it in class and it's a learning opportunity for everyone. And I'm not spending time outside of class on grading. Where can we do in-class discussion-based or participation style assignments? Can I use fish bowls where 2 students are having a conversation and we rotate which 2 students are doing that each week? Can I call on students in class for kind of a short answer kind of question and give them a check minus, or an X, like just quick rubric where they're getting points for answering questions in class? How can I do something like that? Where else can I limit hand-graded assignments so that I'm spending time on high-impact, high-order Bloom taxonomy assignments? I want to focus where my feedback is going to give the most impact. If it's a yes or no question, me saying, great work, is a waste of time. I want their critical thinking, and I want to be evaluating their critical thinking, and that's where I want to spend my time. So how can I focus on those? I don't use it very often, but I've had people say that voice notes can be a lot faster than typing for digital feedback. If you're reading a paper, you're just kind of like talking into Canvas and it's recording you as you go. And you're like, I'm seeing you're getting this part right. Great job. I like how you've explained this section. On this section, it's just kind of like stream of consciousness feedback. Again, I haven't used it very much, but I've heard some faculty say that that's much better. I'm more likely to have that stream of consciousness into a Word document, ask ChatGPT to make it full sentences, and then copy that over as written feedback. It's a few more steps, but I find written feedback means I can go back and see it more clearly that what I've given the students, and that helps me in future iterations. And then think about your semester kind of on the whole, okay? If I only have a few minutes per student, maybe I'm not grading something every week for this class. I'm grading something every couple of weeks, so I can spend 10 minutes per student instead of 3.5 minutes per student. Okay, and so having some weeks where I'm doing not so much grading in this class, paired with a week where maybe I am going to spend a lot more time on grading for this class and be over on that grading piece. But I'm not doing that every single week. Also, we want to balance across the semester, okay? I have some courses. I have an intro-level online course that I don't have to show up and synchronously teach. I have more time for that course, for the grading for it, and ultimately, I almost never use the entirety of my 8 hours on grading for that course. I've built it before. I used a redevelopment grant. We're talking about double dipping. I used a redevelopment grant to pay for the redesign that I did. I've got an IRB in place to do a study on the redesign, and I purposefully wrote it so that it could fit in the workload that I need my job to have. Okay, so being super strategic, right? And so I know that I mean there's a couple weeks where I do more grading for that course, and most weeks I do less grading. So I can balance across all of my classes. I can spend a little more time grading upper levels because I'm spending a little less time on this lower level, or the time that I do have for that lower level is more because it's an online asynchronous course. Okay. Another thing that I do is that I balance my workload before the semester. I'm going to get a sheet over here while I talk. So I think about my semester on the whole. It's easy to be like, oh, I've balanced this class so that the students aren't doing two big things in the same class for the same week, right? But to think about, if I like to give 3 exams a semester across my 16-week courses, they're going to fall on the same week for all the courses. And I'm going to hate myself that week because I now have 3 exams or 4 exams to grade, and I can't do that. I don't have that time. So balancing all the things for all the courses so that I'm not putting multiple large grading things on weeks that I have other big items, perhaps. I need to know not only when is my teaching grading, when are my research deadlines? When's that abstract due? When is that grant due? When is that presentation going to be? When do I really want to get that publication submitted and I'm going to need a little more time? Okay, because while we have a percentage of our time that is supposed to go to research and service, there are also in those categories going to be weeks when you will spend more time on those areas and less time on teaching. You want to try to balance it across the semester, but there's going to be a week where you're like, I have to get that poster drafted for that conference in a couple weeks, and it's going to take me like 6 or 8 hours to do that. So I can't be doing that at the same time I'm grading a stack of 30 papers. Okay, let's try to balance that as best we can before the start of term, and kind of plan that out. Also, if you're a student advisor, when advising hits, all of a sudden every extra moment you have has an advising appointment stuck on it. And you're like, I might spend more than 4 hours a week on advising appointments alone, in addition to a search committee that I'm on, a curriculum committee that I'm on, any other kind of student tours that pop up that I'm expected to do. Who else is going to ask for something? A student service project that needs some help, okay? So kind of if you can see your semester and know where your sticky weeks are, when you have a light week, you can say, what can I take off my sticky week? What can I work ahead on that I can go ahead and do now, so I'm not doing that on that week that's coming up that I know I'm just going to scramble. Okay. And so again, we're just thinking more globally. Okay. And being very realistic. When I'm writing an assignment, how long is it going to take me to grade that? It might be a fantastic assignment. It might be beautifully designed, pedagogically sound. It might test exactly what you want to do, but if it is a pain to grade, it's not going to be worth it. Okay, you've got to come up with something different. We've got to be a little more creative. Okay, how are we doing on time? Am I running over? I'm trying to talk fast. Okay. So how do I do that? I like a week by week plan. This is my semester. I live and die by this. I print one every semester. It is 1 page per week. It has 3 columns: teaching, research, service. Every class that I teach, every research project that I intend to move forward. I have research projects that I don't intend to move forward this semester. They aren't showing up on my sheets because I'm not doing them. I can only pick 3. I personally can't move more than 3 projects forward in a semester, period. Some people have a bigger bandwidth. That's mine, okay? Service, what are the committees? What are the standing committees that I'm on that I know recurve things previously? Advising always shows up because inevitably someone has a question on any given week, whether advising is actually in session or not. And then I always add a little personal category down at the bottom because, I got to know my kids are off school on Friday that week. I know I'm going to work from home. I'm still going to work, but I will be less productive on Friday. I'm going to have to move things to the weekend. And it's helpful to know that that's how my week's going to go that week. So I just know in advance. What this does for me is I fill this out at the start of the week. Every page on this is filled out. What am I teaching each week? When are all of my due dates? When does advising starts? When are committee meetings that I know are standing and are going to happen every 4th week of the semester, okay? And what that lets me does is, when Gil emails me and say, hey, can you come and help out on this Friday thing? I can flip ahead and go, what does that Friday look like? What does that week look like? Oh my gosh, I already have 3 other service obligations. I am really at my capacity for that week. Can we pick another date? Could we pick another week? Or, hey, yeah, no, I don't have anything planned that week. Let me look the week before because that's when I'm going to have to prep my slides for this. How does that look? Yep, I can fit this in. Great, we can take this opportunity. When someone says, hey, can you do this publication? What's the timeline you're looking at to have it done? Can I fit that in with what I've already got? And you have your plan, okay? Now, you don't have to do a paper copy. It gets dangerous if you lose it, another thing I do is every day I have a different color pen because I color code things. And I can see that some days I spend a lot more time on one column versus another, but I can see that over the course of the week, I have balance. So I might do a ton of service on one day and then feel like I've done nothing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to the end of the week. Did I do any service? Yes, I did. I just did it all on Monday, So I'm hitting my categories. Some people do this in their Outlook calendar. Block time. When you know you have to walk 15 minutes across the campus, don't just block the time of the course itself. Block the 15 minutes at the front and the 15 minutes back, plus a few extra minutes to talk to students. Because if someone schedules a meeting immediately after your class is done, you're not getting there. And it's good to be very clear about that. When you have things that are outside of your job or outside of your class times, things like prep, grading, research projects, block your calendar. Don't be afraid to block it because I know that even though I know that, yes, I can move that time block, if I have to move that time block to put a meeting in, I have to put that time block somewhere. It doesn't just disappear. My grading doesn't disappear just because someone has put a meeting where I normally put that grading block. I have to move it somewhere. Where is it going to in my life? Is it going to an evening after my kids are in bed? Is it going to a 4 a.m. when I've gotten up before everyone else to get it done? Where is it going? Because it doesn't just disappear because something else has gotten put on your calendar. Okay. All of this is just to be super realistic so that you can prioritize the things that are earning you points, the places that are great opportunities, the places that align with your values, the places that prioritize not only what the university has says is your job, but also where you have the passion that has led you into this role to be successful. We want you to be long-term successful. We don't just want you to scramble and survive the semester. We want you to be able to have longevity in the roles in which we think you are very capable of achieving. And if you allow yourself to be completely burnt out, burning candles at both ends and scrambling like I did for my first several years, eventually you sit there and you rethink your life and think maybe this isn't the career for me. And that's likely not the case. It's just your math doesn't work. Okay, so let's fix the math. So, and above all else, no, you're not alone. If you're sitting here struggling going, I don't know how to fix my assignments, I don't know how to do these strategies, Let's connect. I love talking course design. I was a faculty innovator for 3 years. I absolutely loved being a faculty innovator because I love talking course design. Talk to the faculty innovator in your college. They want to talk course design with you. They want to help you with these things, especially when it comes to teaching design. And look for FCT&L sessions on the areas that you're like, I need help streamlining grading strategies. Maybe we can come up with one of those. Okay. Put the call into Chris Butcher. He has a whole series too of videos that we've recorded in the past of sessions on some of these kind of back to basics, how to use rubrics well, how to align your courses with your learning objectives, things like that. Okay. So no, you're not alone. There are resources out there, but again, sometimes you just have to stop and like ask for them. And if you see a colleague that you're like, you look like you have everything balanced really well, can I talk to you about how you got there in this department, in this job, and see if they'll, and they probably have some insights to that. Okay. And with that, I'm probably way over time, but I talked fast.
This was great content and great advice. Thanks so much to Dr. Tran and Dr. Blair and our panelists. Yay, y'all were I think. Quick reminder, please do sign in if you haven't already, and we've captured the people who are joining on Zoom. Also, don't forget, you can begin scheduling FCT&L consultations and observations, and Chris will continue to share out good resources focused on early semester strategies through the newsletter as well. So thanks again to our panelists, and enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a great weekend. Do your best to stay warm and keep an eye on the weather too.